All right, Minding Your Business podcast community, MYB community. Thank you so much for coming back here today for another episode of the Minding Your Business podcast. I'm your host, Champ Ron. Listen, today is going to be a very special episode with very special content that you really need to make sure that you're paying attention to. I hope that everything is going marvelous in your day. I hope that you find yourself with joy and you find yourself in peace. And even in this current pandemic situation, that you're continuing to be safe and to continue to engage with your fellow man and with your family. And we will all get through this in the time that we should. But in the meantime, now is a great day to invest in the values and those family values that we all have. And some of the things that sometimes that we miss out and we forget sometimes as we're going through what we call quote unquote normalcy. And knowing that things evolve and times evolve, and certainly that's happening right now. Hope all the mothers and mother figures enjoyed Mother's Day on yesterday as we're recording this on Monday, May the 11th. Before I introduce my guest, I want to play a quick trailer for an upcoming documentary that you're definitely not going to want to miss, MYB. And I'm not even going to give you the name of the documentary quite yet. What I want to do is just play the trailer for you, and then we're going to get into it.
I thought that I was black all my life, not knowing any difference.
If you look through the pictures of Wagner Byrd's life in Newton, Kansas, it's a good one. She was the daughter of railroad porter Ray Wagner and his wife Edwina. Life was good.
Am I black or am I white? It doesn't matter to me because I'm not changing.
For 70 years, Verda thought she was African American, but she wasn't. She actually was white. Thank you for being here today. You have a very unique story. How did you find out that you were actually white?
Verda, this is just an extraordinary story. The sort of story that you'd read or watch in a film in Hollywood, you might read a book. It seems so extraordinary that you could have been brought up absolutely believing that you were black and then find out all those years later that your parents were biologically white.
I'm comfortable with being a black woman.
In the 1940s, it was the belief that the most successful adoptions would be those adoptions in which society did not know there had been an adoption.
Have I ever experienced a child being brought back because of the race? Yes.
I have had a beautiful black life.
All right, MYB, listen, thank you so much for taking your time to listen to that quick trailer, and you'll be able to find a link to that trailer in the show notes. I am so excited today to have Miss Verda Byrd, who's the subject of the documentary by filmmaker Christopher Windfield that's titled 70 Years of Blackness, The Untangling of Race and Adoption. And listen, we want to hear today from Miss Byrd. She was on T.D. Jake's show and a number of other high-profile shows around the country, sharing her story, and her story's been captured in a documentary. And so this is great and rich history for us, MYB. And we want to make sure we take that very seriously, because if we don't know our history, we're doomed to repeat some of those mistakes. And so for us to improve and get better, we have to have an understanding. And for Miss Byrd to take time now to join us on this show is tremendous. For me, this is a historical moment, not just in our podcast, but just overall. So, Miss Byrd, thank you so much for joining us today on the Minding Your Business podcast.
Oh, you're quite welcome. I'm glad to be where you are in Tennessee, because I'm in Texas.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've spent a little time in Texas. I've got some family down there. Actually, I know that you spent some time, obviously, in San Antonio, and I did as well, Miss Byrd. So I'm very familiar.
Yeah. Yes, I've been living in San Antonio about 30 years now.
Okay.
From Tokyo, Japan.
There you go. Excellent. So, Ms. Byrd, let's jump right in, because what I want the MYB community to understand is the depth of your story, and then the rich history of it. So, tell us, just a little bit, I guess, about yourself, and, how eventually that after, 70 years of living, you discover that you are not black, but white.
Well, yes, I received my biological birth parents' adoption documents back in about 5 years ago, 2014.
Okay.
And at that time, the state of Missouri sent me my documents from the juvenile court from where I was adopted, Kansas City, Missouri. I was about 4 years of age, going on 5, and was adopted by a black couple in Newton, Kansas. They weren't called blacks then; they were called Negroes.
Right.
So my adoption birth certificate was given to me then because my name had been changed from my birth name to a new adopted name. And Ray and Edwina in Newton, Kansas became my adopted parents. And they changed my name to Verda Ann. Well, okay, I lived by that name, and I still do, because that's all I know.
Mm-hmm.
But after receiving the documents about 4 or 5 years ago, my original birth from my adoption, is when I had to. Is when I really found out my roots. Thus, I, found out my adoption history, and that I was born a white baby, and by being adopted, I became a black child.
Mm-hmm.
So a race change on paper was really overwhelming.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. And so,
yes.
So Ms. Byrd, what was it like, I guess, being raised by the Wagner family? So you're adopted by this family. Of course, you're completely oblivious to any of what you just described, like you say, till much later in life.
Mm-hmm.
Walk me through what it was like being raised by the Wagner family.
Well, I guess I was just a typical child. You start grade school and you go through high school, and Newton, Kansas was, a small town at that time, and there weren't that many black people there anyway, because it was a Mennonite, basically, community, and the Tennessee Railroad was a hub for the railroad, and so it was basically a white town anyway. So I did everything else that all the other kids in Newton did. We didn't do anything different. There was only one high school, and so we all went there, and I played the band and football games. The typical things teenagers do. And so there was really nothing different in this.
Okay. Yeah, and so, at the point then, you're being raised by the family and that sort of thing. Did you experience any, backlash kind of growing up? Did people notice anything different with you growing up compared to other kids, or was it just fairly routine, kind of in your upbringing?
I didn't notice anything different because only thing different that I could remember was going to a little black church in Newton, Kansas. You know, I knew it wasn't a white church, and that was the only thing that I could ever remember that was different. Because we had Girl Scouts, we had the Boy Scouts, we had the, you know, you have to remember this was back in Woolsworth days.
Yeah.
You know, the five and dime. So I never had any racial experiences.
Yeah.
I never did. And I know in Newton, and then when I left Newton, at the age of 18 or 19, whatever it was, I never lived anywhere that was segregated.
Yeah.
I didn't know any different.
Yeah. And so.
And then being a military wife and living overseas, you know, I've been married to my husband 41 years, and I just never experienced too much of any racial issues.
Yeah, that's interesting. And so, you know, with your husband, you mentioned your husband, Ms. Byrd, of 41 years. How did you all meet?
Well, we met in Denver.
Okay.
He was in the Air Force, and I had gone there to start college, and I finished my bachelor's and my master's degree at Denver University. I think that's Metropolitan State University in Denver, Colorado. So that's where we met, and 6 weeks later we were married.
6 weeks later?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So, you know, being a military wife and living overseas, the military doesn't really go against what race you are. They go what country you're from.
Right. Yep. Very true. Yep. Excellent. Yeah. 6 weeks. That's you know, most people, that's a quick period of time. But now here you are, 41 years later.
Yeah.
So that's incredible.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You know, there is no perfect marriage, and there's no perfect person, man or woman. So, but you know, if you love each other, and if you show how you love, then it's workable. Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. I agree. I definitely agree with that, Ms. Byrd. And so, how did you?
And that goes with my adoption philosophy. You know, yes, I was adopted out at the age of 4 or 5 years old from my birth mother, but she loved me. There I go with the word love again. It's birth mothers and fathers. They had motherly and fatherly love. And yesterday, as being Mother's Day, was a very good example of mothers.
Yes.
We love our children. A lot of times our children make some bad choices. But we as mothers, if we love our children love us. And if they make bad choices, we just continue to love them. Because sometimes they don't realize the circumstances or the consequences of their bad mistakes. But we as parents, mother and fathers, we don't go away. We just, you know, tell them don't do that no more.
Right. Yep, exactly.
And our love. So I had 2 motherly loves, and I had 2 daddy loves. So you know, birth mother and adopted mom and birth daddy and adopted daddy, they loved me in their own way.
Yeah, that's incredible to hear you say that, Ms. Byrd, and that's great insight and perspective. I appreciate you sharing that. I hope that helps many of us here that are listening. I've been married; it'll be 13 years this coming June.
Well, congratulations. But, you know, some people use the word love. It's only 4 letters, and they use it carelessly. And they don't have a clue what it should really mean. Do I love my dog? I don't love my dog the way I love my child.
Right.
So there are different layers. I don't call it levels. I call it layers of love. Layers of love. So in my story, there were 5 layers. Birth mama, birth daddy, adopted mama, adopted daddy, and me. 5 layers of love.
Yes. Yep, absolutely. And so, Ms. Byrd, what decided you to want to document your story? You know, as your story of history or your story of adoption. You know, as you learned kind of your true history and your background, what made you want to document that?
Well, the idea of a film was presented to me after my book came out. I have a book also out called 70 Years of Blackness with a lot of pictures, you know, family pictures, younger year pictures, and the pictures go along with the story. And after my book came out a couple of years ago, somebody said, "Oh, you need to make a movie." Oh, God. Okay.
Right.
Yeah, okay, how do I do that?
Yeah. Right.
But anyway, I went to a film festival here in Dallas, or Houston, a couple of years ago to promote my book.
Right.
And a photographer from Jackson, Mississippi, he was there and wanted to take a picture of me. Okay, you know, displaying my book. I said, okay, why not? So he did take some pictures, and then about a month later, I said, I need those pictures for my portfolio, right?
Right.
So I called him. He said, "Oh, I don't have those pictures anymore. I sent them over to my friend." I said, "Who is your friend?" And he said, "Well, he's a film director, and he's an independent film director who makes his own movies." I said, "Well, can I have his name and number, please? I need my pictures." So I did contact Christopher Windfield, and from there on, it's history. He became he really became interested in my story, and he said he agreed to do a documentary. I said, "Well, that's cool."
Right.
Because it being such a historical adoption story, with you don't hear that. That is not the everyday story you hear.
Right. No, exactly.
We hear about crime and you know, stuff that shouldn't even be existing.
Mm-hmm.
But as a historical Black adoption story, then people, as mine is, then people are glad to hear his history stuff.
Yeah, absolutely they are. Yeah, absolutely. You're exactly right. Ms. Byrd, what was kind of the most shocking truth that came out of your discovery? You know, other than you obviously discovering that you're white, you know, was there anything else that was shocking to you in your discovery?
No, that was enough.
No, I know that's right.
That was overwhelming to begin with.
Right.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
You know, I get these documents, these pages of them. Medical history of my adoption parents, the birth, you know, all kinds of stuff. I thought, oh my gosh, and the words never changed.
Yeah.
It never. I thought, well, maybe I'm reading this wrong.
Uh-huh.
Maybe I'm misunderstanding these pages. Maybe, you know, what's wrong with these people?
Yeah, right,
what's
exactly.
wrong with them?
Yeah.
Why they like this?
Yeah, I mean, Miss Byrd, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, you find this out, again, at 70 years old. I mean, you've lived, 70 great years, and then you find that. I couldn't imagine how I would feel. I mean, I'm 39, Miss Byrd.
Yeah.
If I lived to be 70 years old and somebody told me I was really white or I was something else, I don't know what I would say or do, to be honest with you.
Right. See? Everybody asks me that question. What did you do? Well, I it just blew me out. My life, I said, I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to do. But the main thing that hit me at that time was Rachel Delazar.
Mm-hmm.
Remember the white girl in Tacoma, Washington?
Yes.
She made me so angry for lying.
Mm.
She knew she was white and she wanted to be black.
Right.
I was born white and couldn't even say white.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what's wrong with that story?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that whole thing was ridiculous, to say the least.
Yeah. So when I heard her story, I got the TV reporter out here from Channel 5 News and said, I said, get out here to my house. I have a story to tell you. And here are my documents to prove what just happened in my life.
Mm-hmm.
What I just found out, they thought that was, I think the reporter was out at my house in 2 days.
Wow.
So, that spark, when you want to be something,
mm-hmm.
and you're not, and you can't change the way it was, or why it happened, then you wonder, are these people really, are they scamming me or what?
Right.
The words never change. The words, the story, the pages, the black and white, and old historical reports and pictures and things never change. So the point of it, the whole thing with me, my life has not changed, but my mental acceptance was what was so difficult.
Mm. Yeah, and speak to that, Miss Byrd, because I want to ask you, do you think your life would have been different if you had grown up white as opposed to growing up black?
Well, many people ask me that, but the thing, I don't really know whether
mm-hmm.
it would have. I can't say because it didn't happen that way.
Right.
But in my mind, the stories that I've heard and what I've been told is my adoption gave me a better living situation. Mm-hmm. Because if you're low income, if your birth parents are very low income at the time, and you're number 5 child, and number 4 and number 5 child have to be given up for adoption because you can't financially, you don't have the money to take care of your babies, then you give your children up.
Right.
So that was the main reason why that I was put up for adoption. But knowing whether I would have been rich or poor, I don't know. Mm-hmm. I don't know. But I feel as though I had a better life being adopted.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So, Ms. Byrd, so obviously you have the documentary. You guys have won some awards here recently from the film festival. Tell me about that.
Yes, my film director Chris, he put the documentary in several 25, 30 film festivals, the beginning of the year, and then Corona hit.
Yeah.
So it's, a lot of them have been postponed, but we got an award just a week or so ago from the World Feast International Film Festival in Houston, Texas.
Okay.
They did it. It had about 4,500 entries. where, people send their films in, documentary, comedy, or whatever title they come under. So it's 4,500 entries. We won 70 Years of Blackness, has won third place. A Remy Award from the film festival in Houston, Texas.
Congratulations.
Thank you. This is my first film festival. Olivia worked with Chris on the film. This is my very first film festival, and I'm just so excited. You never know what can happen in your life with your life story, because the Lord has blessed me and my life so greatly that I'm a winner out of 4,500 entries.
Yes. It just goes to tell you. Yeah, it just goes to tell you just the overall power and impact that your story can have on people, and how it can help us all, Miss Byrd, to have a great perspective and an understanding, like you say, and a love and respect for each other. Hearing that story and understanding everything that you went through, and then discovering it when you did, and not being ashamed of it, but you really have embraced it as part of your truth, and then sharing that truth with the rest of us, to me, is amazing.
Thank you. I live by, like you said, we're not perfect people. We are not perfect people in no kind of way. And we make mistakes. But if we love ourselves well enough and good enough, we have to continue to live the best we can and be happy with our lives. If you're not happy with yourself, then you have to make some changes some kind of way.
Right.
Or get out of it, or don't commit suicide, don't get out of life, but make some changes to be positive about the things that the Lord has put you on this earth for. We all do different things. We all have different minds. We all have different lives and everything. But if we're happy with ourselves, then we can share everything we want with anybody else.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're exactly right. That starts within, right? That love and that respect starts within before you can project it out.
Yes. I'm not a perfect person. I might have some issues. Maybe I don't put my shoes on right. Maybe I should wear red ones instead of black ones. But as long as I got some shoes on my feet, what difference does it make?
Exactly. Yep, without question, Ms. Byrd, without question. So you talked a little bit about the book earlier, 70 Years of Blackness. Talk about the book and how it compares with the documentary.
The book, let me just say that you can order it on Amazon.
Okay.
It is, it's on Amazon. The book has historical pictures to go along with the historical story. So you put it all together. You put it all together in the book. And I also have a TV pilot written from a young playwright from New York. It's 40-some pages. It's called What If? And that script talks about what if I would have stayed white.
Mm-hmm.
Well, like I said, I don't know. But there's two characters. I had to keep up with who I was. My birth name was Jeanette. My name is Verda. So in the script, it talked about Jeanette being a white girl and Verda being a black girl. Yeah, I had to keep up with who I was on that page. You know,
right?
It was, oh my goodness! And then the documentary has more historical speakers and social worker, a black social worker from Jackson, Mississippi. She's about my age now too, but she tells about the unwed mother era of adoption. Now, they didn't usually do too much adoption. They had unwed mothers, which they call single parents now.
Mm-hmm.
And unwed mothers basically were women that didn't get married. They put their babies in the unwed mother home, a maternity home and children's home, back in the day.
Right.
But so she talked about the adoption history, and then Dr. Kennedy here from Boston University and Harvard University, he talked about the adoption rules that didn't exist. He talked about how, in my case, the adoption of me, my adoption was like it didn't exist because the adoptions then did not have any rules. And if you adopted a white baby, black baby, they basically put the kids in a home, a permanent forever home that was able financially to take care of the child better than where it came from. So, and if you didn't like the child, you could take it back to the adoption agency and get another one. Oh my God, you don't do that today. You can't take the kids back.
Right, exactly.
No, I don't like you no more today. I don't,
right.
I want another one.
Right.
No. So he talked about the adoptions then didn't really exist because they didn't really verbally existed. The only thing they did was change your name and put you in a change your name, maybe your race, and put you in a home that was financially able. Because the history of the beginning of a legal adoption, there were no rules. And each state did stuff differently. So the state of Missouri, that's what the state of Missouri did. They put you where financially you could have a better home.
Yeah.
And then your birth name went away. You didn't know I didn't know the first 5 years of my birth even. I didn't exist because my birth name went away.
Right.
It was changed. Totally. So if you don't know your roots or where you came from, then, that's okay too. But to find your roots in my history, I mean, I'm happy about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think all of us, having that pursuit of understanding our history, it helps us all understand ourselves a little better, and it helps us teach our children those valuable lessons, like you mentioned, for going forward in a world that is ever evolving and changing. Like you mentioned about the coronavirus and things like that, Ms. Byrd, that's, kind of changing the way that we do things and probably will for the foreseeable future. To understand, our history and embrace that and, be able to share that again, I think is a responsibility that we all have.
Yes, we should be, if you don't know your ancestry, well, that's okay. Just be happy in your life. But now that I know who I really am,
yeah,
I got 2 birth certificates, 2 names, 2 mamas, 2 daddies. That's enough for me. Now I know. Absolutely.
Ms. Byrd.
One last thing is, now we need to, I tell my husband, I said, look, I don't know where you're going to bury me, but on the tombstone, it doesn't have the word race. So, I don't know whether I'm black or white, but I'm whatever I want to be. Put me where I need, where put me where you want me to be.
Right.
Because it doesn't say what cemetery you go to. It doesn't say what's on your tombstone. Jeanette, born white, Verda, lived black. It don't say all that.
Right.
So just be happy with who you are.
Yep, absolutely. A great insight, great lesson for us, Miss Byrd, to say the least. It kind of, as we wrap up, what's one thing that you hope that we all get from watching the documentary? Once we're able to view it, what do you hope? What's one thing you hope we all get from that, Miss Byrd?
My understanding, like I said, I use the word love. Love yourself. And if you don't like yourself, well, then check out some ways to change yourself to be a better, loving person. And I might like my dog, but I love my family. We have to really understand the meaning and the definition of words. And love, to me, is really used. It's not sometimes we all say we love each other, but what do we mean when we say we love you? Do we love you because you got a Cadillac car, or do we love you because you can give us $1 million?
Right. Yeah, you podcasting now, Miss Byrd.
Huh?
I said you podcasting now.
Yes, love.
Yeah.
Do we love you because you can invest in my bank?
Right.
Do we love you because you can give my children a good education?
Mm-hmm.
Because you got $1 million invested in the stock market.
Right.
Do we love that? We love that.
Mm-hmm.
But we have to as each and every one of us, we have to examine our thoughts on the word love.
Yep, absolutely. And using that word, I love how you describe that. Understanding the definition and then the conditions, or in some cases the lack of conditions that we should love and love one another. And I love that as a description of your story. Because it's a story, and without even having seen the documentary, it comes off as a story of love. It's a story of how a family takes you in, and then you have this upbringing, and then you're able to then share this story, decades later after it's occurred. I can't wait for the documentary to come out. I'm definitely gonna pick up the book. Minding Your Business Community. The link will be in the show notes. For you to get the book directly from Amazon. Go purchase the book and read it. Ms. Byrd, how can we connect with you on social media?
On social media, I do have a Facebook page, Verda Byrd.
Okay. Yeah, so...
and I do have Facebook page, Verda Byrd. And then there is the 70 Years of Blackness Facebook page.
Okay. Absolutely.
The documentary page.
Yep, and MYB, the links to both of those, to Verda Byrd's page as well as 70 Years of Blackness, will be in the show notes. So check the show notes out. You'll get links directly. Go there, connect with her, and let Mrs. Byrd know that you heard her right here on the Minding Your Business podcast. Listen, Mrs. Verda Byrd, you have truly enriched this episode. Many things for me to take away and to think about, personally and professionally, and all that here in just these 30 minutes.
All right. Yeah, because it's not, like I said, yes, I'm the star of this show, but that doesn't mean I have to act stupid.
Right.
I don't have, I want everybody to understand. I do not like negativity. I want everybody to understand. Yes, I took the DNA. I took 2 of them and they matched my blood, my saliva, whatever they used. They matched my birth certificate, biological parent. It matched. So I've taken DNA, and that is stated at the end of the documentary. That was, and we have to remember, when it, like I said, I can't say the word love enough. Our biological parents or adoptive parents, if their life was not perfect, if they had issues, we still have to love. I love my birth mother for giving me up for adopting for a better life. People ask, do you like it? How do you feel about it? Well, I still love her because she was my biological mother.
Yes.
And whatever she did or had to do to survive, she did. And that was one of the best things she could have done for me, to give me up for adoption.
Yes.
So whatever our biological or mama or daddy does, we have to know. We have to know why they did it. What you do for survival. Parents usually do and can do stuff for their kids. They have to survive. They have to take care of their kids. So whatever they do, you can't be mad at what they had to do. Why? That's not important why they did it. Because they knew why they had to do it, but you didn't know as a child.
Right.
But just accept what they did and be happy.
Yeah, certainly in this scenario, like you said, your mother and father, your biological mother and father, Mrs. Byrd did what they had to do. And, it's hard for us in a 2020 mindset to understand, how people had to think and live and make decisions, 70 years ago, in the 1940s. And so that's very difficult. And that's why this is so important that you're willing to share this story. So it helps give us that perspective so that we can learn the meaning of words such as love. It's hard for us in today's society to just know it, reading it out of dictionary. We have to see it applied and hear about it being applied. And your biological parents, showed that love, and they demonstrated that by ensuring that you had a better life than what they could provide. And so I thank you so much for coming on the show, Mrs. Byrd. Thank you so much for your willingness and your courage to share your story, that it's a benefit to all of us. And again, everybody, in the show notes will be links to everything that you need in terms of ordering the book, to read the book, and to connect with Mrs. Byrd on social media. Mrs. Byrd, again, thank you so much. I know you're staying safe with all the social distancing and everything as it relates to this current pandemic. But I look forward to the day, and I want to coordinate this with Liv to one day meet you and want to be able to showcase the documentary and make sure that as many people as possible can view the documentary and read the book.
Well, thank you. Yes, it's a great honor to share my story with the world.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
We went to London last year.
Oh, did you? Okay. How was that?
I was on Good Morning Britain.
Yeah, that's right. And that was part of it in the trailer too.
Yeah.
So people all over the world getting an opportunity, not just here in America, but like you say, internationally, to hear this story, because it could be applicable, everywhere. When you talk about the love of, parents for children, that's not limited to just America. That's everywhere. That love can exist. So thank you again.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so listen, I'm going to let you run. But again, I thank you for your time. I look to remain connected. And, again, best wishes to you, to your husband, and to your entire family, Mrs. Byrd.
Thank you, and same to you. Be safe and be healthy and love one another.
There you go. Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. We'll talk soon.
Okay.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, y'all. Listen, that was Mrs. Verda Byrd joining me here on the Minding Your Business podcast. And I'll just tell you, just a beautiful spirit. Having a chance to talk with her some on a Zoom call prior to us recording this podcast. And, definitely shout out to her. And again, look in the show notes for the information to be able to connect with her. To see the trailer, to be able to see eventually the documentary, and to read the book. This is very rich history, MYB. And, if you may ask, well, this is a business and that sort of thing. Well, yes, it is. It's the business of love. It is the business of how we operate as people in the midst of challenges. And that speaks to business and what we endure in business all the time. Right. And with this podcast, I always look to make sure that I bring you all diversified and a myriad of content. I don't want to just tell you about how to start up every single little business and how to do that, because, there's so many places to get that content. And quite frankly, there's a million ways to Sunday on how to do just about any business. And a lot of it is contingent on 1,001 different scenarios. And so, like I've told y'all, I'm not into the theory. I like practicality, and I like realness, and I like authenticity. So I'm not going to sit here and give you the theory on all those different things, right? Because it's hard for all of that to be applicable directly to you. So anyway, with that being said, thank you so much. Check out the show notes. Connect with Mrs. Verda Byrd, our guest today. And this show is sponsored by Liv Almagro. And Liv, thank you so much for your continued professionalism and connectivity with bridging me together with such great spirits and relationships as with Mrs. Verda Byrd. Listen, I'm going to let y'all run, get back to what you're doing. Enjoy the rest of your day. Go be great. And in the words of Mrs. Verda Byrd, love one another.